Character design, what is it? According to the Wikipedia definition, it's the process of creating a character and utilizing it to enhance or publicize a commercial entity through design. Hello, my name is Karen Farrar, and we are here today to talk about character design. I am with guest speaker Professor Ryan, who's going to introduce himself in a moment to talk about character redesign, which I have some questions for him. So, Mr. Ryan, please take a moment to introduce yourself and state what you did as a profession as an illustrator.
Hi, Kevin. Like you said, I'm Professor Ryan, Michael Ryan. I'm a full-time faculty member here at the College of Westchester, and I teach courses in graphic design, illustration, focus on character design, color theory, interactive media. Professionally, I've worked as a graphic designer and an illustrator and photographer. As far as character design, professionally, my work's been, I don't want to say limited, but focused on the illustration side of things and not so much concept development. But I'm well versed in character design, and it's my pleasure to talk with you about that today.
Nice, very nice. It's always an interesting fact to get to know you more and more, Mr. Ryan.
Well, thank you, Kevin.
Okay, so now over the years we've seen various changes in characters, certain icon characters like Superman, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and many others, which we won't get into details because we'll be spending here hours.
It's a long list.
It is a long list. Now we've seen them grow over the years, just in comics and movies, as well in games and TV shows. But one particular character has gained my attention since I was a child, and you probably know him.
You guess
well.
Superman, right?
Yes, Superman. We've seen many versions of Superman since the 1920s. Would you like to comment on that?
Well, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Superman's gone through a lot of changes, both visually and as far as his story is concerned. Right? If we go back to 1938 when he first appeared, he didn't fly. He could just leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Super jump.
Super jump, right? He wasn't bulletproof. He had hard skin. So bullets just sort of, would sort of bounce off him.
But the super strength was right there.
Yes, he had some super strength, but he got stronger over the years, up to the Crisis. That's when they had to sort of reboot him and depower him because he was too strong, right?
Yeah, a lot of people were complaining about that.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like it. Well, but if you take a poll today, when I teach a class and we cover character design, one of the things I always find interesting is a lot of people like Batman better than Superman. And I always tell them that you wouldn't have Batman without Superman, right? Because Batman was created to cash in on the success of Superman, right? Mm-hmm. Superman 1938, Batman 1939. The editors, went to Bob Kane and said, "Give us another Superman." He came up with Batman, I think, in the course of a weekend.
Really?
So,
a weekend?
Yeah, it was pretty quick, the turnaround time on that. So yeah, I mean, I always say look at the first superhero, which is Superman. As far as character design and the visuals are concerned, I mean, the S evolved, the costume evolved over time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still going through changes today. I would say one of the biggest changes would be, after the character was killed by Doomsday in 1992, when he came.
Superman Doomsday.
Superman Doomsday, right? The death of Superman,
yeah.
Which was a big media event. It might have even been before you were born. I'm not sure. How old are you, Kevin?
I'm 21.
21. So yes, it was 1992.
2 years before.
2 years, just under there. It was a huge deal. I mean, it made all the newspapers. It made television. People were wearing black armbands around that had the Superman symbol on it to mourn for Superman.
Now I wish I wasn't born in that.
Yeah, it was a cultural thing to kill Superman. But when he came back, I'm sure you've seen what happened. He had the black costume with the long hair.
Definitely.
To make him look different.
Was it a mullet?
Yeah, it was like a mullet, the super mullet, right? So, and then if they ended up putting him back in his classic costume. Later on, they ended up changing him radically and making Electric Superman, if you remember that.
I know there were like two Supermans, a red and a blue.
Yeah, Superman red, Superman blue. But before they introduced the two, they had just the one, it was blue. And they changed his powers. They made him electrically based. They ended up eventually putting him back in his standard costume. And now he's gone through with the new 52 and everything. They've changed it all. And if you even look at the movies, compare the Christopher Reeve costume to the Henry Cavill costume, or even the Brandon Routh. So why do they do it? I think to get to the crux of your question there, it's to make the character relevant. they want to keep the character interesting, and there's some sort of concept or idea out there that
Right.
if the character remains the same or stays in the classic costume, people aren't going to be interested.
Right.
Which I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think you should mess with Superman's costume, or his powers. It's
Yeah.
sort of an American icon.
Yeah, that's
But
just saying, like you told me before, like that's just like changing like the stripes on the American flag.
exactly, I'm sure people would say that's insane that I would compare it to that, but really, I mean, you can go around the world and Superman is recognized as a symbol of America.
Now, we can talk about Superman all day, but
Yes, we got to move on.
Yes,
so you
we
mentioned
do.
the Ninja Turtles as well, right?
yeah.
You
So
know,
can you briefly, like
briefly, yes. I get a little long-winded sometimes. I'm passionate about this stuff.
We are like comic. geek.
Yeah, we love it, right? Yeah, I mean, the Turtles, if we go back to the 80s, they were very gritty and dark, the black and white comics by Eastman and Laird. They had to redesign them. That's a really good example. When they made the Fred Wolf animated series, they had to
Right.
make them appealing to kids. So
Right.
you see the multicolored bandanas that kids could identify with. They all wore red in the comics, so they had to come up with the colors.
Right.
And it's just to make them more relevant and approachable to children.
Okay. Now, I read this in a blog called 20 Character Tips. Now, it said that character design can be a tricky beast to tackle. Because although many of the classic characters are familiar to us, like movies and advertisements look simple, that simplicity usually belies that many hours of work that have gone to their development. Do you agree with that?
I would say absolutely. I mean, what you're seeing in a cartoon or in a movie is just the final product. And we can liken that to anything creative. In all of our classes, we teach what's known as the design process or the creative process.
Yeah.
There's hours and hours of research, sketching, meetings, deliberation, all of these sort of things that go into character design. So yeah, if you're really interested in character design or anything in the creative field, there's a lot more behind the scenes work that goes into the finished product.
Now, I got a few questions for
Sure.
you. My first question is, can a few changes make a difference in a character to appeal to the audience?
Absolutely. I mean, if you were going to, you always have to think about your target audience. Let's stick with the Turtles for a sec, right?
Okay.
Yet, imagine in your mind the original animated series with the Ninja Turtles, right? They had, pupils, right? They didn't have white eyes.
That came in later, right?
The 1988-1989 series, the original animated
For me, it
series.
was like the 1993 version.
93. Okay, well, it ran for 10 seasons, so it was well into, the 90s.
Right.
In 2003, they revamped the Turtles,
Mhm.
and they made them more angular. They made, when I say that, the overall anatomy, instead of being, sort of curvy and bubbly like the originals, they
Right.
made it more hard edged.
Right.
They whited out their eyes, more like Batman, so they didn't have pupils.
Right.
And they gave them a more gritty personality. What did they want to do? They wanted to appeal to people that grew up with the original, who were older and wanted something a bit more mature. And if you look at the Michael Bay abomination that was just out last year, right? I mean, these things were monsters. They didn't look like Ninja Turtles.
True.
Look
That
at
is true.
Raphael.
Yep.
I mean, that'll strike fear into your heart. So, I think they might have went and veered off a little too much in the dark
Right.
range. But they, of course, they want to appeal to adults, and they think that the only thing adults
Right,
are
right.
interested in is that dark.
Dark, edgy
or-
sort of tone.
Exactly. So minor changes, sometimes big changes, they definitely change who it appeals to.
Okay.
What happened there, Kevin? You're trying to appeal to a new audience,
Right.
and then you're alienating the original fans.
Right. Now, my next question is there a reason that certain characters get a redesign while others do not?
Of course. I think if you'll find that all characters get a redesign eventually, but ones that are redesigned more frequently or have a more drastic redesign, it's all to make the character, more appealing and cash in. If you look at the original 1980s He-Man, the Masters of the Universe, right? Do you know that character?
I've heard of him, and
You've
I think
heard of He-Man?
I've heard of him. I think I watched like maybe one or two
One or
episodes.
two episodes. Okay, so he was a big, muscle-bound blonde guy with a sword.
He was like this scrawny little kid.
Yeah, he was a Prince Adam, and he would say the magic words, and he would turn into He-Man.
I have the power.
You got it, right? That came out in the 80s. In 2001, they redesigned the character because he was gone for over a decade from toy shelves. And he got a fairly drastic redesign that had a strong Japanese anime influence
Yeah.
to it. So a character like that, if you're looking at a drastic redesign, generally it's because it's either been out of the public eye for a long time,
Right.
and they need to do something fresh to bring it back, or that, it's the sales are slumping.
Right.
If you look at, we mentioned in the original question there, Superman. Why did they kill Superman, and why did they end up putting him in that black suit with the long hair? That's because the sales were in a little bit of a slump, and they wanted to really reinvigorate the character. So usually it's that redesign is the jolt in the arm to kick things going again.
Okay. Now, is it necessary to have too much redesign or not?
You mean, is there a point where it's too much?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we mentioned the Turtles,
Right.
right? Look at the movie Turtles.
Right.
They wanted to take a look at the original Jim Henson Muppets from the original movie.
Right.
They looked like the Turtles. They redesigned them slightly to make them look more realistic, which was fine. I think a little bit goes a long way. It's sort of like cooking. When you add too much garlic powder or too much salt, right? You're going to ruin the dish.
Right.
So try to stay true to the original character, and don't make it something that it's not.
No. Right. Good. You make excellent points, Mr. Ryan. Now, my last
you.
question is, if you can change one thing about in a character, what would it be?
Any character?
Any
out there,
character.
if I could change one thing, let's stick with Superman.
Okay.
Put him back the way he belongs.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Put him back in those red ties.
Put him back. He needs his red underwear back. Okay, and give him the don't be afraid. Look at the Man of Steel costume. Don't be afraid to use red and blue. We don't need navy blue and maroon. Okay, nothing wrong with some colors.
Right. No, that is true. So, Mr. Ryan, thank you very much for taking the time to do this with me. Is there any closing statements you want to say?
No, thank you for asking me. It was my pleasure, and best of luck with everything, Dan.
Thank you very much.